Welcome to the deep dive. This is where we take the sources you send us and, well, we really dig in.
That's the idea.
You, the listener, our learner, you want to get the key insights, see the different angles, maybe have those aha moments, but, without getting totally overwhelmed.
Exactly. And today we've got a whole batch of headlines from Science Daily, all psychology news from late April 2025.
Right.
So our mission really is to sift through these and see what connections pop up, what advancements are being made in understanding, the brain, our behavior, connecting those dots.
And it's quite a mix, isn't it? I mean, looking through them, we've got brain-computer interfaces, how we read gestures, even stuff about immune cells and fear or cold affecting metabolism, lots to unpack.
Definitely a wide range.
Okay, so where do we start? What jumped out at you first from this collection?
Well, the brainwave decoder for spinal cord injury that was April 28th, that's pretty striking.
Okay.
It really highlights the potential of these brain-computer interfaces, doesn't it?
How so?
The research is showing a direct link between brain activity and controlling spinal cord stimulation.
So the brain tells the stimulator what to do, essentially.
Precisely. It's like finding a way to bypass the injury site. Could be revolutionary for restoring movement.
Wow, like the brain finding a new pathway, a detour.
Exactly, a functional detour.
Now, thinking about how our brains interact with the world, there was another study, April 22nd, about gestures, how we use them to predict what someone's about to say.
Ah, yes. That's fascinating because it taps into something we do constantly without really thinking.
Right, it feels automatic.
It does. And this study, using virtual avatars, it suggests we're actively using those hand movements, those visual cues, to predict words before they're even spoken.
So we're not just listening passively.
Not at all. Our brains are making these rapid-fire predictions, and gestures are a key part of the data stream for that. It speeds up comprehension in real-time conversation.
Huh. Makes you really think about phone calls or, video calls where you can't see hands clearly. How much might we be missing?
That's a great point. We probably compensate in other ways, but yeah, something is likely lost.
Okay, so from external cues like gestures to maybe influencing internal brain states, what about that study using light and sound at gamma frequency to help cognition in mice?
Yes, the 40 hertz stimulation study from April 25th. That's quite novel.
40 hertz, okay.
They found that this specific frequency of light and sound actually improved cognition in mouse models of Down syndrome.
Improved cognition? How?
Well, it also seemed to boost neurogenesis. That's the growth of new brain cells, and improve connectivity between neurons.
Wow. So just by using light and sound?
At that specific gamma frequency, yes. It suggests that maybe targeting these natural brain rhythms through sensory input could be a potential route for improving neurological health more broadly.
So non-invasive therapies using just light and sound, that's a really surprising idea.
It is. It taps into the brain's own frequencies.
Okay, now, seemingly different. But on the same day, April 25th, there was research linking immune cells to a type of congenital paralysis, spastic paraplegia.
Right, type 15. This research is interesting because it points to the immune system playing a direct role in driving the movement problems in this hereditary condition.
The immune system causing movement issues.
It appears so. They also noted the brain seemed sort of overactive early on in the disease. It really highlights how interconnected things are. The immune system isn't just fighting infections. It can influence the nervous system in unexpected ways.
Like the body's defense system somehow contributing to a neurological problem? That's complex.
Very complex.
Okay, let's shift back to more fundamental brain stuff. Serotonin. We hear about it all the time, mostly with mood. There was a new study mentioned.
Yes, also April 25th. This one uncovered what they called a general principle of neural processing.
A general principle?
Yeah, specifically in the midbrain area where serotonin actually originates. The graphonuclei.
Ah, okay. So going to the source.
Exactly. It's giving us deeper insights into the basic mechanics of how this crucial system works. The system that regulates mood, sleep, appetite, all sorts of things.
So it's not just more or less serotonin, but how it's managed and processed right at the start.
Precisely. Which could, down the line, lead to more refined treatments for things like depression or anxiety.
Makes sense. Okay, let's switch gears completely. Artificial intelligence, always a hot topic. There was a study comparing humans and AI on reading social cues.
And guess what? Humans are still winning.
Huh. Good to hear, maybe.
Well, the study found we're significantly better at interpreting social interactions, understanding the dynamics in, moving scenes, compared to current AI models.
Why is that, do they think?
They suggest it might be because AI neural networks are inspired by our current, perhaps incomplete understanding of our own brains. Maybe we're missing some key ingredient in how we model social cognition for AI.
So our intuitive grasp of social situations is still more nuanced than what we've managed to teach machines?
It seems so, for now at least.
Interesting. It makes you wonder what those missing pieces are in our own self-understanding, too. Okay, let's move to something many of us think about. Brain health as we age. 2 studies here on exercise, both from April 24th. The first looked at Alzheimer's risk.
Yes, a landmark clinical trial, apparently. And the results look pretty good.
What did they find?
They found that people at risk for Alzheimer's showed less cognitive decline if they did regular exercise, either low intensity or moderate to high intensity.
So it doesn't have to be super intense exercise.
It seems even low intensity helps protect cognition in those at risk. It adds more weight to that idea that physical activity is just crucial for brain health, not just body health.
That's really encouraging news. It feels like something practical people can do.
Definitely. And the second exercise study, same date.
Right. What about that one? It mentioned brain health even with low energy.
Yeah, this one suggests that exercise is beneficial for keeping minds sharp, even if the brain's sort of energy resources are low.
How does that work?
It seems the benefits go beyond just, say, increasing blood flow or glucose supply. Exercise seems to trigger other beneficial processes that support cognition, even when you might feel tired or drained.
So exercise is like a tune-up for the brain, even when the engine feels a bit sluggish.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. A cognitive tune-up.
Okay. Now for something a bit more philosophical, almost. Mind blanking. We've all been there. What are researchers saying about that?
Well, this piece from April 24th compiled different perspectives, neuroscientific and philosophical, on that common experience.
When your mind just goes poof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it turns out mind blanking isn't just one thing. It's a spectrum, apparently. From just feeling drowsy and a bit out of it to a complete absence of awareness or thought. Understanding the brain states behind these different levels is the challenge. It touches on consciousness itself.
Right. That moment where the mental gears just seem to stop turning. Okay, let's look at something potentially quite groundbreaking. Psychedelics. Reversing fear through neuroimmune interactions. That sounds like a mouthful.
It is, and it's a really unexpected connection. This research from April 23rd found a link they didn't know about before.
Between what?
Between the immune system and how the brain processes fear. It suggests our immune system can actually influence fear behavior.
Wow.
And what's more, psychedelics might be able to disrupt that specific interaction, potentially reducing fear responses.
So implications for PTSD, anxiety maybe?
That's the potential therapeutic angle, yes. It really highlights this complex mind-body interplay with the immune system as a key player in emotion.
The immune system influencing fear, that really changes how you might think about mental health treatment.
It certainly opens up new avenues.
Okay, next up, memory of cold controlling metabolism. That sounds weird.
It does sound a bit like science fiction, doesn't it? But this research, April 23rd, again, it was multidisciplinary.
Okay.
And it showed our brains actually form memories of being cold, and then use those memories to help regulate metabolism, like how our body spends energy.
So my brain remembers that time I fell into the icy lake and adjusts my thermostat based on that.
Kind of. It identified brain pathways involved in forming these cold memories and how they link to metabolic control. It shows how adaptable the brain is to environmental cues, even quite fundamentally.
That is a wild thought. That freezing swim years ago might still be echoing in my metabolism.
It's possible.
Right, okay. Let's talk treatments again. Repurposing an anti-inflammatory drug for alcohol use disorder and pain.
Yes, a preclinical study from April 22nd. They took an existing FDA-approved anti-inflammatory.
So a drug already known to be safe for other things.
Exactly. And in animal models, it seemed to reduce both alcohol intake and pain levels. Repurposing drugs like this can be a much faster track to new treatments sometimes.
Especially for complex issues like alcohol use disorder where more options are definitely needed. That's hopeful.
It is.
Okay, back to AI, but from a different angle. Making AI vision more like human vision.
A new technique called LP Convolution. Also April 22nd.
LP Convolution. What's the idea?
Basically, it's designed to mimic specific ways our own brains process visual information, trying to copy some of our neural tricks, essentially.
To make computers see better.
To make them process images more accurately, more efficiently, more like we do. AI learning from biology again.
Teaching computers to see like us. Now, there was an observation about glutamate release during energy restriction. Something unusual.
Yes, another one from April 22nd. They noticed that when the brain is short on energy, like during severe calorie restriction, there can be this excessive release of glutamate.
Glutamate, that's a key neurotransmitter, right? But too much is bad.
Exactly. It's crucial for normal function, but too much can be excitotoxic, meaning it can actually damage nerve cells.
So starving the brain of energy could potentially lead to this harmful glutamate surge.
That's the potential risk highlighted by this finding. It really underscores why balanced nutrition is so important for brain health.
A really important point, especially with all the different diet trends out there. Okay, another potential diagnostic tool. Looking at the retina for clues about schizophrenia risk. The eye as a window to the brain again.
It seems so. This study, also April 22nd, suggests that genetic susceptibility to schizophrenia might leave detectable signs in the retina.
How?
They found evidence linking certain retinal characteristics to the genetic risk. If this holds up, it could potentially lead to non-invasive ways to spot higher risk earlier on.
Early detection could make a huge difference for interventions.
Absolutely, the potential's there.
All right, nearly through our list. Dopamine. Often called the pleasure chemical, but this study suggests it's more about motivation, avoiding the bad stuff, too.
That's a much more accurate picture, yes. This piece from April 22nd frames dopamine as the brain's core motivational driver.
So not just go get the reward.
No, it's also crucial for steer clear of that danger or avoid that negative outcome. It drives us towards the positive, but also strongly away from the negative. It's the brain's fundamental push and pull signal.
Our internal navigation system, basically, telling us what to approach and what to avoid.
Good analogy, yeah.
Okay, last one. April 21st. Working memory. What happens when we're juggling lots of information?
This study looked at the brain activity when working memory is handling multiple things at once. Like remembering a phone number while listening to directions.
Right, holding things online.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they found at least two distinct brain regions really working together, collaborating to manage that load.
So it's distributed, not just one memory spot.
It seems to be a team effort, distributing the cognitive work when we need to keep multiple plates spinning mentally.
Like different parts of the brain tag teaming to keep track of everything. Fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Well, this has been quite the deep dive, hasn't it? We've covered so much ground just from these recent headlines.
It really shows the breadth of research happening from, very specific brain-machine interfaces.
Right, to fundamental things like serotonin processing or how we read each other's gestures.
And those surprising links, like the immune system and fear or cold memory and metabolism, it's all interconnected.
It really is. This snapshot, it just gives you a glimpse of how fast our understanding of the brain and behavior is evolving. It's constantly changing.
Absolutely. Things we thought we knew are being refined, and new unexpected connections are always emerging.
Which leaves a great question for you, our listener, to think about. After hearing all this huge variety, what single area of brain research that we touched on today strikes you as the most, promising? Or maybe most surprising?
Yeah, and where do you think that line of research might lead? What discoveries could be just around the corner?
Think about what it means for you, maybe for society, for how we understand ourselves. Lots to ponder there.